Recently, I did a YouTube video on doing professional quality headshots on location using just your iPhone. And then several days later, I get a call to do just that. A company that wanted headshots of their employees, just nothing fancy, simple head and shoulder portraits, not necessarily with the phone, but professional quality headshots. So I gave them a price, it was accepted, and then we made the appointment. And I got to thinking, wow, this would be a great opportunity for me to use my phone and to do these headshots. But then the more I thought about it, I figured, well, what if I go in there with my phone and some of the people I'm photographing have the same type of phone or possibly even a better phone than I do? How can I justify charging them to do these headshots? It's probably a mental thing that I'm not quite used to doing. But I decided against using the phone and sticking with professional, all those smaller lighting gear. So instead of taking along my large giant softbox and my other larger light, I decided to put together a smaller mobile system. And it consisted of two Nikon speedlights, and one you see here bounced into a silver umbrella. And the other one I used as a kicker light coming in from behind, a little higher up, just adding a little bit more dimension to the face, giving more shape. And so they were small units, easy to travel with, two small light stands to hold them. I also brought along my portable background. The one that you see here is the one I use. This is probably my favorite one that I use quite a bit. And then also I decided to take along and use my Nikon D7200 along with my 70 to 200 f2.8 lens, Nikon lens. I love using this lens, even though the aperture I used was at 5.6 and I didn't need the fast lens, but the quality of this lens, the sharpness, the color, the saturation is just so beautiful. That's why it's my favorite lens actually for doing portraits. So that was the lens. I put the camera on the tripod also. I love using the tripod because this way, once I'm set up, nothing's going to really change. Plus, I'm able to walk back and forth to make the adjustments in clothing or possibly readjust the light or something. So this was something that worked out really well for me. Now, at the time, I didn't expect to do a video on this, so I didn't photograph my setup in the room that I was using. So I'm going to try to recreate that here so you have an idea of how I set it up and the gear that I used. So let's take a look at that. So the lighting system that I was using consisted of two Nikon speedlights. One bounced into a silver umbrella like you see here. And the speedlights were set to shoot in SU4 mode, which means that on my Nikon, I used the built-in flash in commander mode, which fired the two flashes, the two Nikon speedlights. And this one here is the SB800, which I had set to shoot at 1/8 power, and we're shooting manual. Because once you shoot manual, there's no variations, there's nothing. Each time you take a shot, your exposure is going to remain the same. There's no surprises. So I like shooting in manual mode. 1/8 power, bounce into a silver umbrella about this far from my subject, about 4 feet away. And the other speed light I used was also a Nikon. This is the SB80DX, a little bit of an older unit, but it also works fine in shooting in the SU4 mode. This is the one that I used as a kicker light. I put it a little bit behind the subject, a little higher up, which just gave a little bit of more modeling shape to the face, adding a little bit more dimension to the photograph. So the main light, like I said, was shot at 1/8 power. The kicker light has no softening, except each light has a tone diffuser on front of it, but this one here was set to a 64th power. And just in case you're interested, the ISO that worked out well was 200 ISO. Aperture was f5.6. The shutter speed, I believe I had set to around 1/100th of a second. It doesn't matter a whole lot because it was the flash making the exposure. And I didn't care about using any existing room light, so 1/100th of a second at 200 ISO. And the light that I was using came just from my Nikon speedlights. So this way I'm able to travel light. All the light stands and tripod fit into a little, not little, but it's kind of a special bag for light stands. And then I had a smaller hard case that I was using with that carried my speedlights and my camera and my lenses, and of course my background. So this is pretty simple stuff to carry around, very portable. It's easy to set up, easy to tear down, and when you're shooting in manual, it's repeatable. You're going to get the same results all the time. So this is the setup that I'm going to be using for right now anyway. If I do start to use my iPhone, which I may, probably will in the future sometime, but as of right now, this system worked out really well, and this is the setup that I'll be using for my on location if I have to do headshots or maybe small family portraits. Now I do have a video on YouTube on how you can set up your flashes and your camera to shoot in the SU4 mode, and I'll put a link on it down below in the description. Thank you very much.